Hi, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, whatever time of day it is. Another one of my rather quick impromptu screencast demos. This time I'm going to show you how I process a set of 5 images using Nic Efex Pro, not Photomatic Pro, Nic Efex Pro. Fairly similar in operation to Photomatic Pro. But I've got this installed as a plugin within Lightroom 4, so I will be invoking Nic Efex Pro from within Lightroom 4. And showing you how I get the images that I come up with, if you're interested. So you can see I've got a couple of images. I've got Lightroom 4 open on my desktop. These are the series of 5 brackets I've taken on a walk I went the other day. 5 normal exposure, 2 under, 1 under, 1 over and 2 over. These are images I've already posted on the site that you may or may not have seen already. I'm going to try and end up with this one here. Okay, so the 5 images, simply select them all. Oops, what's going on there? There you go. So I select my 5 images within Lightroom 4, right click on the desktop and then export to HDR Efex Pro. Okay, HDR Efex Pro has done its work. Lightroom has exported the 5 images as TIFF files, and it's opened up HDR Efex and brought those 5 images into HDR Efex Pro, and this is what you see here. Now, this isn't going to be a tutorial on HDR Efex Pro, just what I do to process some of my images. This is the main screen that it's brought up, and here are where you can see some of the effects. I'm going to turn the loop and histogram off to get some more details. We'll put that on a bit later. You'll see that there's a HDR method, which is one of the features of HDR Efex Pro. Clicking on that brings up a set of, I don't know, 12, 15 or so predefined algorithms that HDR Efex Pro uses to apply the tone mapping to the images. So I tend to either use natural, clean or crisp. There's some more weird ones here, but I'll go into those in another one, in another tutorial maybe. So I'm going to select crisp, but because there's 0 method strength, it's not done anything to the image that has been brought in. Just take it about 50% and you can see what happens already. Immediately the sky becomes more saturated, the clouds become darker, and if I take it back to 0 again, you'll see that overall it sort of does a little bit like clarity does within Lightroom, except it adds saturation to it as well. Still a little bit dark. The other thing I tend to do, experiment with the tone compression. If you want it a bit darker, but then you start getting some halos around the edge. You see the halo around the edge of the trees and the building in the background. Don't like it, so I'll probably take tone compression down slightly, just a little bit more maybe, because I still see some. That's not too bad. Still a little bit there. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but there you go. That's not too bad. The next thing I tend to do is take the saturation down. I don't like massively saturated images. Put it up if you want to. You get a wild green. I take it down only a little bit. There's no real preset. Just play around with it and see which value on the slider. Minus 21% is what has been selected here for me. The other thing that I like playing is structure. That looks at certain areas on the screen and applies specific processing in terms of edge detection and contrast enhancement. And you can see if I go all the way, you can see exactly what it does to the image, and everything becomes way more prominent, probably too much in this instance, so I'll take it back a little bit, and there you go. That's what I quite like. Let me just show you if I change the HDR method from crisp to natural. Vastly different. You can see the algorithm that's been applied. I try clean. That's crisp. I'm sorry. Select clean. That's not too bad either. A bit of a soft. You can see some nice soft edges around the edge of the leaves that are in the foreground here. But I'll take it back to crisp, because I rather like that processing. I'll put the whites up just a little bit because I want to get some detail here, but I'll do the rest of my processing in Lightroom. Sometimes it's nice to see a vignette, and there's a predefined, that sort of brings some focus to the center of the image, and that's really how I would process the image within HDR Efex Pro. When I click save now, that's going to take that image, it's going to save it and take it immediately back to Lightroom. I'll pause here, it takes a little while. So here we go, and now it should take this image right back into Lightroom. Notice it hasn't taken it into my screencast set. It's probably taken it into the directory in which the original image is in. So if I click show folder in the library, you'll see that there's the image there. And what I'll do is just add that image. Once I get to load it, there's the image there. I'll add that to my HDR screencast set and go back to the set now. Close my folders down, and you can see, there you go, there's the image that I've just brought in. I double click, and there you go. Now I would do some final adjustments within Lightroom. This information I can turn off by pressing the I key, so I can get that. I press the D key to go to the develop module, and I don't want that on for the time being. Give me the full screen. Now, a couple of things that I'll do very quickly. I might first off increase the shadows, so it's going to become a little bit brighter. That sort of flattens the contrast a little bit when you do that, so you might want to just up the contrast a little bit. I probably, because I've got that HDR look, add a bit to it by upping the clarity a little bit, and that's done the effect that I think somebody asked for in the sky. How do I do that? I'll still go a little bit higher on the shadows. There's not much more room to do much. I might take the exposure up slightly because it's a little bit too dark. What I'll tend to do now is click on the HSL and then the key, the colour picker tool, and make sure I'll up the saturation. I'll pick an area of blue and I'll make it a little bit, you see the blue slider going up, and I'll also click on the luminance slider and make it a bit darker so it becomes a darker shade of blue. That's not too bad. With the greens, you can make them lighter or you can make them darker. Obviously I don't want to go darker. I'll come up a little bit lighter, maybe 15, 20, something like that. And finally, the last thing I would do is go to the detail. I'd sharpen it a little bit, and then I'll add some noise reduction because sharpening introduces some noise. I think it's set ISO 200, so it shouldn't be much noise in that image anyway. Turn that off, and then I tend to add a nice little vignette, not so much. And then you can go back to the original image and increase the exposure just a little bit, and there you go. I put the lights out and the full image. There's the final image. And finally, there you go. The final image. That's the original correctly exposed image. Very difficult to get a decent correctly exposed image because you've got massive areas of contrast and brightness within one image. Hence, wanting to try HDR technique to bring out the detail. And this is the resulting image. If I turn off the compare module, there you go. Hope you enjoyed.